time.
This video is being filmed on the North York Moors National Park coastline. We're at Shirehorse Farm, Staintondale Shirehorse Farm, and I'm Tony Jenkins. I've owned the farm now for the last 50 years, and 30 years of that, of course, we were the Staintondale Shirehorse Farm Visitor Centre. This little tractor I've also had for 20 years, and I'm going to cut the grass eventually around the woodland, around the path, and as I've done with it for all this time, week in, week out, for every summer over that period. The woodland walk's going to take us through the trees, which is part of the whole farm conservation plan. We carried that out, or started that, in 1992. It involved planting 1,100 broadleaf trees. 200 of those were ash trees, a lot of birch, quite a lot of oak, and round the edges field maple. So it's made a very attractive little woodland. At the same time, we created a pond, an eco pond, which we started from scratch, dug it up. Well, it was all machined up, taken out the soil and topsoil and the clay and created it. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. But it's a lovely autumn day. We're going on this tranquil journey and explore, as I say, the woodland. It's all really very interesting. It's been a pleasure for me to do it. So I'm going to move on now to the pond area and we'll pick up the story from there. We're looking at the inlet pipe, which is feeding the pond with spring water. That's the basis of the pond. It's fed from our rising spring head, which is several hundred yards away, believe it or not, right at the top of the hill there behind us. And we've fed it across with the land drainage pipe, so it's continuously flowing from the overflow. The pond itself we created, as I've just already said, and it's host to a lot of plant life. You can see we call these burr weeds, which were really bulrushes called, when they had heads, lovely heads on them, velvety heads, which have all died back now, but you can see the rest of it. It's quite extensive. It goes right back to that end. At this point over it was probably 3 metres deep, and it goes out to shallows at the other end to accommodate waders, which is again is part of the development. I'm just looking, there's a little water hen down there just swimming through the reeds. Lovely little water hens and the chicks that we get. We get mallards. We've got a lot of pond life, a lot of insect life. It's regularly surveyed, and of course it creates a lot of interest of what the actually surveyors find in there, particularly the pure water. Damselflies, everything really. It just is a marvellous little situation in itself. Round it we've got water mints, forget-me-nots, water forget-me-nots, irises, far too many to mention, but they grow right the way around it. On that side, before we move on, the hawthorn berries in great profusion this year, which are a winter treat for the birds when they get perishly thought we don't need the winter. But beyond that, looking down towards the far end of the pond, we're looking at these willow trees, and this one, this weeping willow, it had been weeping so much I had to cut through a little area to get the tractor through on this footpath. So altogether an amazing development. Anyway, we're going to move on a little bit further and go and explore the woodland. Yeah, we're looking out across the fields now to the coastline, and right behind us, it was called Eastside Farm long before we owned it. Of course, it was changed to Shirehorse Farm. The landscape there leads up to the sea, and if we go around now just to the right and look down, we can see the North Sea there. Look, absolutely beautiful, and the Haven White, which is a peninsula which sticks out into the sea, a smuggler's haven, as it all was, and of course the smugglers were very active on this coastline, right the way up to Whitby, Saltburn, all the way up there, and here in particular, because this farm is only 300 feet above sea level, and the sea, of course, 2 fields behind us, and this is where the smuggling went on. The Mead family, who owned the farm in the 17th century, were actively involved in smuggling, and the smuggled goods were brought, contraband was brought up a trod up the cliffside and stored in various buildings all around the farm until it was redistributed, and believe it or not, taken all the way to Pickering over the moors for the distribution from there. So it's got a colourful history, and the Mead family were also involved in a murder trial, which I won't go into all of that, it's another story, but from the murder trial a book was published called The Gentlemen Go By. It is still available. I do know several people who've got copies, so might be worth looking out for. That's the smuggling part of it. But more than that, we've got a really interesting history going back to the 12th century when King Stephen was on the throne, and he granted a charter to the Knights Templars, who actually owned the Staintondale, the whole of Staintondale at that time, owned by the Knights Templars. And because of that, he granted them a charter and a royalty, which of course gave them all these amazing privileges. I mean, there's endless, but one of them was toll and tax free on all the Staintondale carts and wagons. Wherever they went, they had no taxes to pay, no tolls to pay. Lived a little paradise of their own. So part of that, of course, the manorial rights, which have been handed down through generations to the original freeholders, passed on through connections, people who actually owned the property, became lords and ladies of the manor. So there we are, and that's, if you like, you can call me Lord Anthony. Here we are, another start to an entry to the woodland, which is rather attractive because we've got this silver birch which is weeping over the track, and it's creating what I've sort of, earlier on today it was so dark in there, the shadows, it was looking black, and I called it a walk in the Black Forest, from that very catchy medley that came out in the 1960s, a walk through the Black Forest. It's absolutely wonderful. So we're going to go through the dark little archway, if you like, further down, and we've got another lovely view of the North Sea sweeping across there, and the trees we planted all the. Well, I don't know if I've mentioned it before. I've overrunning myself a little bit, but we planted 1,100 trees, and a lot of them you can look at now, oak trees, we've got birch trees, 200 ash trees in this wood, would you believe, altogether. A lot of field maples all around the edges of it. I can't believe it, because when it was planted in 1993, there were little saplings all in plastic tubes. You know, never ever thought I would be still here, living it, driving through it, pruning the trees, cutting some of them back. It's been absolutely a wonderful thing to do. So we're going to go through the wood now and talk a little bit about various aspects of it as we go. Yeah, we've lovely now. We've come partly around the woodland, and for the first time on the journey we can actually see the house itself. And as I've said, it belongs to the Mead family. The buildings date right back to the 16th century. Some wonderful things like stone pig troughs that were actually carved in stone, and lovely outbuildings. The timber that was used in the outbuildings and the house initially were all shipped timbers that were washed up at the Haven Wyke, a lot of it, and carted up here. So the roof of the house is based on oak ships timber. So hard, it's damn difficult to knock a nail in. So it's got a real lovely history. And of course, more than that, it's been connected with the smuggling as well, and sheltered from everywhere. It's in the Dale Bottom, sheltered all the way around. You can see no windows on the back when we came. They're all south facing, as the house is, and shelter from the storm, there's no doubt about that. Behind it you can see just a break there through the trees where that is actually the sea. So a couple of fields away and you're on the smuggler's trot. Anyway, we're going to move a little bit further and have a little bit more of the woodland.
Go.
Yeah, we're looking all through the sunlight dappling through the trees, which is always lovely, I think. And we're looking through this hedge, or remnants of one, at the hay. It's late hay being made. You can see the weather's been so kind. Lovely, incredibly warm day. That was only cut yesterday and being rolled up, and look at it, it's starting to turn. Turning round, we've got the rest of the woodland, some more of the lovely trees. The one behind us, a horse chestnut, and they're quite interesting because we planted these later, and we've got 4 white and 4 red ones, and the red ones the red ones are related to the American buckeye. That's where they get the colour from, so they're a cross between the two. But they do have conkers on. I can't just see one on this particular tree, but we do get conkers. It's all around us as we're moving on. But a lovely part of the wood. Bluebell's actually over there in the corner, and don't look very pretty now, but I've had to put a little fence around because the deer, believe it or not, eat them. They eat the bluebell flowers and the leaves. So I've had to put a little net just to preserve those, but they are spreading a little bit. In addition to deer, of course, we've got badgers, foxes, rabbits, you name it, barn owls. We've got, we just probably heard earlier on, game birds. Just a lovely haven for wildlife, the whole area. And of course, part of this whole farm conservation plan is what it was all about. And this is the way it's developed. It's absolutely wonderful. We're going to go a bit further and drive, I am, through what's called a ride for butterflies. And then we'll be looking back down towards the farm and the coastline. Right, again we're just looking quickly out to the Haben Wyke and the sea, the blue sea now. What's interesting about this little spot is a few years ago there was a replica of Captain Cook's Endeavour built in Australia, and it was quite an interesting story because its first voyage was from Australia to New Zealand. It just happened that our daughter was living in New Zealand at the time and we were visiting them, so we were able to go and see the Endeavour, its first maiden voyage, all brand new and beautiful. So we saw the Endeavour there. We knew it was going to come to Whitby eventually, which is the home berth of its origins. It was a collier originally, but anyway, the story is it came over to England, sailed to Whitby. Believe it or not, I was stood here in this very spot looking out to sea by the Haben Wyke there, and I could see the Endeavour sailing along right the way around the coastline. Absolutely amazing. And then on this side, of course, you can see the rest of the coastline right over there on the top of the cliff edge, which again is not too far away. At the bottom, a small plantation that we put in as part of the conservation plan, just a random selection of trees. As I mentioned before, those huge tall alders there, willows, a big variety of trees anyway. And this little piece here is a wildlife meadow, and of course we leave that absolutely wild, desolate, and it's there for butterflies, bees, nettles, nature, all of that. So that's just about concludes our little visit. Got the dog on as well. Well, here we are back at the end, at the beginning where we started, and I just wanted to pay tribute to Shirley, my cameraman, and we hope that you enjoyed your little trip. We do live in a very special place, very special environment, which is why our several thousand visitors over the years loved coming here. We enjoyed their company, we enjoyed your company. For the whole of this 30 years, it has been our pleasure. Thank you for watching this video. Please share.